There we go.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Today is another episode of Creating Lasting Change. And I'm really excited today to be talking to Stacey Johnson. And we are going to delve into, one of our conversations that I'm really interested in, and that is stress. That is how to, have better strategies to control stress, because so many of us don't even realize that we're actually constantly living in a very stressful environment because we've gotten so used to it. So let me do our introduction and then we're going to jump into this conversation. Stacey Johnson is a clinical therapist and woman empowerment coach, empowers high achieving women to break free from overthinking, burnout, and stress, reclaiming their well being and thriving both personally and professionally. And let me tell you, overthinker. Not only do I will beat the shit out of something because I overthink it so much. So for me, this is, I've gotten very good with bringing myself back to the present, but there's so many of us out there who have not, who just overthink it. So welcome, Stacey. Welcome, welcome. And I'm excited to really delve into this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Trisha. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. So let's talk out about overthinking, signs of burnout, and ways that we can start to see it, recognize it in us, and shift it.
Yes. So it's a great topic. There are so many people that don't realize that they're overthinking until it's really impacting their life. And it can impact their life by, just not sleeping well at night, or they're finding themselves not being able to concentrate as well during the day. And then they think it's something else. And also just, also forgetting things, because our brain is so filled with all these other thoughts. I consider it kind of like a computer when we have way too many tabs open and our computer starts to run slow. That's kind of like our brain. It gets way too many tabs. And that's when we start to, that's when we need to realize that we're overthinking. We have like 64,000 thoughts a day or something, and it's a lot of thoughts. And so many of them are not helpful. And a lot of times we overthink those unhelpful thoughts. I never overthink the good things that happen in my life. It's the things that are not going well that we overthink. In like conversations that we may have had earlier in the day with someone, and we're like, oh, should I have said something different? Or could I have done this? Or what's happening tomorrow? What if this happens? What if this? And so we find there's just so many times that we're overthinking, and yeah, we don't even realize it because it's so ingrained in us, and we just keep going in autopilot, but then it does affect our daily life.
Let me tell you something. I can't tell you how many times I went to sleep and then I woke up and immediately the reels started. And I'm like, seriously? Like, it is truly a matter of retraining ourselves
Right.
to catch as soon as we have these thoughts that what is a better thought? What do I really want to focus on? And I got to tell you, I used to do that all the time. I used to be like, and sometimes, yep, I'll admit it, I'll go back 50 years from now and into a fight or some situation where I'm like, I should have said this. I could have said that. I could have done this. And it's like I wasted my time doing that to myself.
Yes.
And then I physically get agita, get a headache, get stress in my body. Like, yes, what we do to ourselves.
Right. Right. I find myself sometimes like overthinking. I said no to someone because I just don't have the time to add one more thing to my schedule. And then I overthink that situation, like the guilty feeling that I get. And
Mhm.
so learning to, set those boundaries as well is part of, and letting go of that own guilt of like, no, it's okay to have those boundaries and be like, I just don't have the time. And so, overthinking can also, affects our, it can affect our blood pressure. Yeah. The gut stuff, because it'll increase our stress and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And so, um, and, and so learning to, recognize those thoughts when they're happening is a huge thing. A lot of times I try to recognize, like when I feel myself feeling something, like if it's stress or if I feel that like increase in my heart rate, I try to stop myself and allow myself to feel that feeling. And then I'm like, okay, it's related to this. And then I can deal with that thought, you know, because a lot of times it is so related to the thought that I'm having. And so then I can stop myself, take a deep breath and then start to like digest that thought and either look at if it's something I can control or if it's just something that's irrational and I need to challenge it and get rid of it.
I'm going to share something. So yesterday I was having a conversation with my husband, and next thing I know, I'm like, and I'm very grateful for all the work I've done because I caught myself. My self-awareness said, you're reacting to a situation that you really have no control over. And instead of respond, and I actually said that I stopped. I said, I just want you to know, and I'm catching it myself, that I'm actually reacting to this situation and my emotions are skyrocketing. And that's not at all what I want to do. So I'm going to stop, breathe, and think of another way for me to handle this. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's so, like, look at where we've come, he was saying, and it was something external to the two of us that we did not have control over to begin with. And I was like, you know what? This is not a conversation that I can even have until we have all the facts. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, when we tend to talk about certain topics, it can get family, money, health, these things will, you know, we tend to react instead of responding. But I caught myself, I'm like, like, look at this.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull it back and sit back down and go, you know what, let's get more information before we even have a plan of action, because I'm creating scenarios that haven't even happened.
Right. Right.
It's like, wow.
Right. So
Mhm.
many of us create scenarios that haven't even happened. We have no proof that it's going to happen.
Mhm.
And there's no fact. Yeah. Like you said, there's no facts. And
Yes.
so, learning to stop ourselves when we can recognize it, stopping itself. And I kind of like becoming a detective and being like, wait a minute, do I have facts about this? Do I have, is there any proof that this is going to happen? And
Yeah.
then, sometimes even saying, okay, if the worst case that does happen, how is that going to really affect me?
Yeah.
You know, and will it affect me in a week from now?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, there's times that I can find myself. Not too long ago, we had a huge, I'm a single mom with a pretty, decent sized house, and I've got quite a few trees around us, and there was a humongous windstorm. They were actually calling, I think, for tornadoes. And I was like,
Mhm.
at first I could feel myself like getting a little edgy and starting to think like, oh gosh, what happens? What if a tree falls on the house? What am I going to do? What if a tree falls in my camper that's like 30 minutes away? And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I like said, wait a minute. I, I can't control any of this. I can't control the wind. If it happens, we will deal with it then. Like I will, you have insurance for a reason. Deal with it then. There's no reason to allow, of course the noise may keep me up, but I wasn't going to allow these thoughts to impact my sleep. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. If I wake up tomorrow morning with a tree on my roof, we'll deal with it.
Mhm.
because yeah, I mean, there was nothing I can control. I mean, I can't change the wind.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting how quick, your mind goes to all these scenarios, and most people allow it to keep going and go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
So what tips, tricks, strategies do you have, especially our high achieving women? They are going. They are, unfortunately, a lot of them are in that hustle mode too,
Right.
which is very detrimental to us.
Right. Right. Yeah. So exactly that kind of tip that I just did myself. I stopped I caught myself and I said, literally, I said, stop.
Mm.
Do you have control over this? No. Okay. Worst case scenario, what will you do? You can problem solve this. You are a smart woman. You can problem solve. And so we are capable of problem solving. And so reminding ourselves that, if these things happen, we have the skills to problem solve. Typically high achieving women are, if they're, entrepreneurs, or if they're in some form of career, or even just working, like stay-at-home moms, we're still problem solvers. We are problem solvers. And so we can figure it out if worst case scenario. So, and I have a technique called ditching the dreads, which is basically like this 6-step process. And one is, first taking that, as soon as we recognize that we are having a thought, especially like a worry, we take a deep breath, recognize that the fear is not happening right this minute.
Mm.
So stop, recognize that you are a good problem solver, do a worry dump, get all the thoughts down on a piece of paper, let them go, and then really try hard to distract yourself with a more happier thought. And then don't allow yourself to go back to that worry, um, and so and then I also do a lot of work in regards to the control and not control, versus what we can control and what we can't control. It seems like so many people I work with, they want that control. Like we always
Yes.
feel like we need that control. And when things are uncertain to us, uncertainty increases our stress. And so uncertainties are typically things we can't control. And so, but we want to. And so then we will overthink those uncertainties. And so learning to let go of the things that we can't control, really, I using mindfulness meditations and
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to get inside our senses, and, picturing ourselves maybe in this nice, wooded area with a small creek, and then we're stepping inside the creek and we're letting all those thoughts that go down the creek or down the riverbank, and just as the current goes and hits our leg, same with those thoughts that are in our way. Um, and just trying to let go of the things that we can't control, is some techniques that I've used, or even allowing them to float on a cloud,
Mm.
because those are things that sometimes will relax us, bring us joy. And so just allowing our thoughts to like go in there, and then recognizing, like, if we catch ourselves like in that moment, like not really getting into the senses, and we're like not really seeing the clouds anymore, is really taking that moment and be like, nope, stop. You're not going to overthink right now. You're just going to be in this moment and put those thoughts back up on the cloud. Um, so mindfulness, I use those a lot of techniques, and, the deep breathing to
No,
help.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, when we start to see ourselves like getting worked up, about something, taking a deep breath and slowing ourselves down so that we can really be like, no, wait a minute, stop. Because so many times we think our brain is, I mean, it's a very powerful thing. Obviously, we couldn't survive without it. And so when we have all these thoughts, sometimes we think that we have no control over them, but we do. We're in control of our thoughts.
Mhm.
because the more we think about something, it becomes more of our reality. We
Yeah.
start to think about it more. We start to find clues that it might be true. That's how our brain will work, and so recognizing that we are in charge of our brain. And I tell my clients when I first start working with them is that as soon as you find yourself thinking about something that it's not helpful, you know, if you don't feel like, especially if you're alone, yell the word stop, because you are in control. You need to recognize that you are in control of your thoughts and you can change them.
Mm-hmm. And I want to point out that because it's so important, the more we focus on those thoughts, the more we bring that experience into our reality. We're
Mm-hmm.
creating new neural pathways when we continuously think the same thoughts.
Right.
We're training our brain. Oh my God, this is horrible. This is what's going to happen. People don't realize how powerful our brains really are. We
Right.
are the ones who are in control. And it takes all of us because we're programmed at a very young age to be a certain way. Society jumps in, our friends jump in, our family jump in. So it's like we just get caught in the flow and go without actually stopping and taking control back
Right.
of what we can think. I mean, I love that you're saying go outside, use your mind as visualization techniques to go out, be outside. You know, I was not a techie person. Okay. One of my very big frustrations. And months ago, I was like, and I caught the old pattern coming in. And I was like, oh hell no. And next thing I know, I'm capable to do this. I am really capable of handling this. Boom. I started Googling, how do I? What is this? And bam. I was
Right.
like, wow. So I created so much havoc and mental blocks about techie stuff that didn't need to be there.
Right. 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 You know, and people don't realize like that, yeah, the more we think about it, it does become our reality. And I use the example of like, um, when we were, I mean, I've done this when I was a kid and then I did it with my own kids. You're outside and you start looking up at the clouds and you're like, oh, does anybody see a dog? No one sees a dog until someone says they see a dog. And then because our brain heard it, now we're thinking about it and we can see it. And that's how like our reality, how it becomes our reality is because your brain starts thinking about it more. And so when we have these overthinking thoughts and we just keep thinking about them, then it does. We just find more proof that that's there. And so if we change if we change those paths and be like, this is what I can do, or this is then it starts to like, your brain starts to work that way.
And I love how you said, I am a problem solver. I can find the solution. I'm capable. It's like when we change our perspective, things shift for us about what is potentially possible.
Right.
It's that stop. This is not the reality right now. This is just a thought,
Right.
and we can change it. So like I love that you do that with your clients. I love that you're sharing this now because so many of us need to stop, step back and realize this is not our reality right now. It's just not.
Right. Right. Well, like that night of that storm, I was like, stop, stop. You have no proof that your house is going to get hit. You have no proof that the trees that are bending over right now in your backyard are going to fall down on your house. Stop. You're a problem solver. You can deal with it if it happens.
Yeah.
Like there are things that we can control and things that we can't. But when we can't control them, if they do happen, then we can problem solve, the best of the ability of the things that we can control.
And I
So
think people need to hear that because I think they get caught up in the drama of the moment without actually stepping back and saying, okay, what can I do in this moment? What is available to me? What possibilities are here? I love that you're bringing this out because I think it's so important. These are simple strategies to handle the stress in that moment. same as mindfulness and same as breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also, just a simple time in the day, if you find yourself that you are one of those people that find yourself overthinking or worrying all the time, what I also encourage my clients to do is you identify a time in the day and you give your permission to your brain to only overthink during that time. So
Mhm.
again, because we train our brain to do it when we want to do it. So if I say, okay, 8 o'clock every night is going to be my thought dump time, I will give myself 10 minutes, 8 o'clock, and I write everything down. And then the next day, if I find myself thinking about something, overthinking, I remind myself, no, you're not doing that right now. You're going to do that at 8 o'clock tonight. And then again, it trains our brain. Consistently, we do that enough, then our brain knows that you're going to give it time to overthink, but just not when the brain wants to do it, when you are going to allow it to do it. Again, we gain our control again. We're in control of those thoughts. And then it starts to get in this habit, like I overthink it. And then by the time I get down to my thought done time, I've forgotten about what I was overthinking about because it really wasn't anything important. You'll remember the important things. If, like you'll remember the things that you have, if it's a really humongous worry that has to be problem solved, you'll remember it. Because a lot
I
of
like
times our
that.
thoughts are not things that we need to take care of. Like you said, sometimes you'll find yourself remembering an argument that happened 30 years ago. Well, it doesn't do me any good now. It's over with. It's done. So if we get in the habit of, learning or teaching our brain that we're going to give its permission to think, just not during the times that, in the middle of our workday or anything else,
Yeah.
it'll start to know, okay.
I think that is a really great tool right there, because that is, you stop yourself. 8 o'clock tonight, I'll see you there. 8 o'clock
Right.
tonight, I'll see you there. 8 o'clock tonight, I'll see you. They just keep saying that to all those thoughts. And you're right. Come 8 o'clock at night, I guarantee 90% of them, unless it's something big, it's gonna be like, I don't really care. That's irrelevant. What was I even thinking about?
Right.
And I think that's huge, to actually interrupt the thoughts and give it now you're also giving it a space to speak later. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like you're ignoring it. It's like, all right, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this later.
Right.
And that's huge. That really is a great tool.
Right. Yeah. Because it gives us that power and control.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you don't feel like you're in control, things spiral for you.
Mm.
Your mind goes out of control. So it's, all right, I'll have this conversation with you later and we'll figure this out. And it's like you're having a conversation with a friend
Right.
and still allowing it its space and grace to speak at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spectacular. I love it.
Thank you.
That one will be implemented in my own house. You want to talk? We'll talk at 8. It's a great idea. And I think it's so powerful to do brain dumps. It's so powerful. It's like getting everything out on any topic, on any situation, getting it all out. And now you're giving yourself that space to problem solve about it. Now that you got the worries out, let's problem solve. Let's
Right.
really problem solve.
Right. Right. Because now that once they're on paper, then you can really be like, okay, that is for sure not going to happen, or that happened 10 years ago that I don't need to deal with. So you start to be able to recognize that some of these thoughts are definitely not even worth having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not worth having. They're not worth giving your time, energy, and attention to. And you're actually at that point too, retraining your brain to focus on the thoughts you really want to have, to focus on the situations you really want to spend your time and energy on. So we're just changing our perspective on things.
Right. Right. Yep.
That's fabulous. Do you happen to, so for me, when I start to overthink, it's my brain, but I also start to feel it in my body. Do you have, if someone doesn't recognize that they're overthinking, what other ways can they say something's going on here? Let's stop.
Yeah. So, definitely, for me, I know it because my heart will start racing.
Hmm.
I tend to have, I could feel it almost in my cheeks. Like I feel like my cheeks are getting warm, because my anxiety might be getting higher or I'm stressed. And so when I feel it in my body, the first thing I do is take a deep breath and try to really recognize like what is going on. Like take a deep breath, take a moment to be like, what is going on? And then I can deal with my thoughts for that way. I have a lot of practices in place. Again, like that self-awareness has become so big for myself that I'm able to do it so much easier now. 15 years ago,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. I was not as self-aware, and I would come home and there's days that I don't even know I'm overthinking so much that my car must have been in autopilot because there's days that I drive from, when I worked in a brick and mortar building, the drive home, I don't even remember how I did it because my brain was so distracted on other things that I'm like, you just know that you're an autopilot then, and then you walk in the door and someone's like, what's for dinner? I have no idea. So that irritability was another sign that I was not really connecting in the present. I was so, like overthinking the workday and bringing home the crises from work through my day and then coming home. And so so that self-awareness was a huge piece, is just recognizing like, wait a minute, I'm not mad about cooking dinner. I'm irritated, I'm like I'm so distracted. And so taking that self-awareness and really, recognizing that um is a huge piece, but self-care, for the managing the stress, so deep breathing, finding some kind of joy in your day and taking 5 minutes to just give yourself a break. A lot of times we think that to manage our stress, we have to get massages. We
Yeah.
maybe have to go get our hair done. Those are all great, you
Mhm.
know, maybe once a week, once a month kind of techniques. But we really need to recognize like, what can I do each day to give myself just even 5 minutes where, yeah, I'm not thinking, I'm really present with my own self, can really help our stress management, because yeah, these overthinking thoughts can cause some other, you know, tight muscles in our necks and backs, migraines, stomach issues. And so really taking, those times in the day, um,
Yeah.
with either deep breathing, gentle stretches, if you can get yourself into like a yoga class, that's even better. You know, I love taking walks, so trying to implement a walk, outside where I can just really try to pay attention. And during my walks is when I try to really not allow myself to overthink because I don't want those stressful things to like impact the things that I'm trying to do to relax. So I really try to become very mindful of like just the sounds and the sights as I take my walk so that I'm more concentrating on those things than I am the overthinking thoughts.
I actually am so grateful you brought it up because self-care is so important. It's a daily practice. So it's interesting when someone's like, it's self-care Sunday. I'm like, no, it's self-care daily. It's self-care daily. Or,
Right.
I'm getting a pedicure and a manicure and I'm getting a massage and that's my self-care. And I'm like, what do you do daily?
Right.
I don't care if it's 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, and 5 minutes before you go to bed. It's that time to, I love that you're outside walking. That's something I do. Nature for me is huge. If it's a nasty day, I'll actually put a YouTube channel on with just stream, waterfall,
Mm.
ocean, and
Mm-hmm.
just sit and whatever's in my brain, I'm like, nope, we're going to focus on the ocean right now. We're going to focus on the sounds. I went to a lavender farm 2 weeks ago and we went all the way in the back corner and my husband's like, just shush. And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh my God, all the bees. And like, you actually heard the bees. It was really relaxing. Two
Wow.
hours of being in a lavender farm, just sitting down in the shade and just listening to the bees. It was,
Wow.
you know, amazing. It's like having those practices every single day in some area, being out in nature, deep breathing. For me, I get my day started by exercising. Do
Mhm.
I like it? Nope. I still don't like it, but I like how I feel and I like how the tension, whatever I may have woken up with, or, I'm like, all right, we're gonna bicycle this out and we're just gonna relax. And so it's so important to have that self-care practice on a daily basis.
Yes.
We could do a talk on that.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And again, 15 years ago, that's not what I was practicing. I would always feel like I was a ball of stress. Like even my deep breath felt heavy, and so really trying to implement that, becoming more self-aware that I needed that self-care. And yeah, now it just ingrained and just a daily practice. Just like when we learned how to brush our teeth, someone taught us how to do that. Now we don't sit there and go, okay, go this way and then this way. And, so if we implement self-care into our daily practice and you find a routine that's good for you, and yeah, like you said, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunchtime, I tell people like I know I did it for years, was I worked during my lunch break. Like I ate and
Mhm.
worked at the same time.
Yeah.
And I really tell people, you need to take that break, even if you're not a big eater at lunchtime, at least taking a few minutes away from your desk and do something for you. If that means, deep breathing and closing your eyes, if that means, walking outside, if that means, even just get away from that environment, because so many of us think like, especially high achieving women, we're like, if I work through my lunch break, maybe I can, be
Yeah.
done with work a little bit earlier, or, I won't have to take as much home tonight. For years, I would work through my lunch break and it wasn't it wasn't healthy for me, you know, and so really taking the time for ourselves. And so many people think, I don't have the time for self-care.
I know.
No, if you don't implement the self-care, then it'll eventually, you know, add up to you're going to find, you know, maybe time in a doctor's office that you're wasting because you have headaches that won't go away and you're now thinking it's something else, or you've got a muscle strain and you think you've pulled a muscle. And so now you're wasting time in a doctor's office and it all is probably related to stress.
Mhm.
And if we implement self-care, then we're not wasting time or money in doctor's offices for copays and wasting our time until the doctor can see us.
Or eating a lot of Tums,
Yeah.
thinking it's really agita. It's
Yeah.
just so much stress. I've done this. I feel like you're talking to me. I'm like, I've been there, to the point that I would have to go to the doctor for, this or that, or what's going on. And ultimately, once I started taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, all of that just started to go way down.
Yeah.
way down.
Yeah.
Even working from home, I specifically go inside, have my lunch, get outside, do something, read a book, give
Yep.
myself time to unwind. Then I'm like, okay, now I've got this thought that you don't realize by taking care of yourself, you're actually gearing up your creativity, gearing up for more.
Yeah. You're actually more productive if you do take care of yourself because you can concentrate and you have, yeah, that creativity is sparked again, so yeah, implementing, breaks during the day is a very powerful tool for our productivity.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, I would love for you to share where people can reach out to you to learn more about you, to, reach out for any questions they may have.
Sure. Yes, I can be found on all this. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Stacey Johnson Coaching. And my website is www.staceyjohnsoncoaching.com.
And that's great, guys, because what I'm going to do is after the call, I'll put all of her links there so you can reach out to her. And thank you so much for stopping by and sharing with us, Stacey, because I mean, just self-care, we could really have another conversation on. And I appreciate that you shared all these strategies and tips with my audience. And I'm hoping everybody has a fabulous Saturday. And as always, this is take these tools, implement what works for you. This is about creating lasting change for yourself, creating that fundamental, solid foundation for you.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you again, Trisha.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Happy Saturday.